Alright everyone, today I have a little bit of a wonky schedule. The plumbers are coming over and doing kitchen sink sort of things and bathroom sink sort of things, so things might be a little bit scattered here. We start off today talking about the war in Gaza, actually though, because Netanyahu released another statement the other day and said effectively that, well, the war is going to continue for many months. That's rather open-ended. How many months is not entirely clear. So I would suspect that the occupation of Gaza is now indefinite, which sort of aligns with what Netanyahu said weeks ago, which was that Israel has effectively dissolved the Palestinians' own governing authority and will be reorganizing things themselves. So effectively you have an annexation of Gaza. When Israel first responded, because, Hamas crossed the border, took a bunch of hostages, killed, over 1,000 people, their response was, number one, justified, and number two, necessary. Netanyahu would have already been forced out of office had he not responded in such a manner. If he did, a Western politician would say, we need to keep calm, and we need to show restraint. That doesn't really work in a nation like Israel. And in Eastern Bloc and certainly Middle Eastern nations, you respond with overwhelming strength if you're capable of doing so, otherwise you lose power. The next people that take power, they'll do it instead. Netanyahu is aware of this fact. By the way, getting shot down by the Israeli Supreme Court also the other day on his attempted judicial reforms, which have been, if the people on the left in Israel very much averse to it, people who are more conservative in Israel generally supported the idea, but he got shot down on that as well, which will hamper him in some of his decision-making going forward. But as soon as the initial response, in the first week or so, once that was done, Israel started losing the diplomatic war against Hamas. Militarily, Israel runs the show right now. They've occupied most of Gaza. The IDF is far too large and technologically sophisticated for Hamas to be able to stop them. And you do have some thousands of Hamas fighters now dead. The problem is that for every Hamas fighter you're killing, number one, you're creating more of them, because you're also killing civilians. And when somebody's mother gets vaporized by an IDF bomb, or someone's dad gets shot or something like that, there's going to be a tendency for feelings of vengeance and retaliation. And this sort of spiraling thing happens all over the world, but notably within this particular region. That's the first problem. The second problem is that other Western nations that initially didn't complain about Israel's response because they had just gotten attacked by a significantly sized fighting force on their own soil, they've begun to bemoan the situation. When every aid group that's embedded in the region is saying the situation is catastrophic, and the European countries certainly originally, and now other Western nations too, are complaining about the situation. Everyone keeps trying to pressure Netanyahu to draw back the forces, get out of Gaza. I don't think that that's going to happen. Israel has drawn down the number of troops that are currently in Gaza. There are still tens of thousands of them. Gaza is not a very large area, and they are effectively the judge, jury, and executioner now in that zone. I would say to people, whether you support Israel or Palestine, in my case, I don't support either of them, we need to understand the situation for what it really is. Israel has effectively annexed the Gaza Strip. There is nothing anyone can do about the fact they've annexed the Gaza Strip. Hamas will continue fighting. There will be rockets fired. There will be IEDs and suicide bombings and so forth. They don't have the manpower or the technology to dislodge the IDF. And so the IDF will still lose troops on a day-to-day basis for the foreseeable future, while having effectively gained control of one of the most unstable regions in the whole world, which they're physically undermining at the moment with sappers getting into the Hamas tunnel network and flooding them with seawater. They're effectively bringing the ocean into the Gaza Strip. I've warned before that kind of substructural damage that you're going to see from the corrosion involved, as the tunnels inevitably, the water seeps out and so forth, is going to liquefy some of that soil. It'll be spurting up out of manholes and shit. You'll probably find that the tunnel network is bigger than expected too. This is not like kids on the beach digging a hole to China. This is more like you've had a half a century to build a multi-layered tunnel structure that goes under most of Gaza. Most of the Gaza Strip has tunnels and caves and shit underneath it. It's an overwhelming network. It's bigger than I believe any city metro system, actually, if I remember correctly. Like the New York City Metro or something like that is bigger than that. It's an overwhelming area. Of course, it has to accommodate several tens of thousands of people that have to move rapidly from point A to point B in order to continue doing their Hamas thing. You're probably going to destroy Gaza City in the process. The engineers have warned of this. There was one proposal, this was kind of a wacky one, it's not really doable. There was one proposal to build an island offshore, off the shore of Gaza of about the same size, and just fucking move everyone there because Gaza in and of itself, as the bombing continues, and certainly when you're flooding the tunnels, could effectively physically collapse. Much of the Gaza Strip would become uninhabitable. It's not entirely clear exactly how much material's been excavated, but it's enough to sink these cities into their own footprints. And of course, those tunnels, while made reasonably well, were not necessarily made in a professional fashion. It's not like Elon Musk's Boring Company went in and created the Hamas tunnels and assures you that they'll stand for the next 500 years. Situation normal. All fucked up. That's basically the sum and substance of it. The problem that I've said now for a while is that there is no solution. The problem between Israel and Hamas is that both sides want to eradicate one another. One side kills a bunch of people on the other. That side becomes more fanatic and more militaristic. They retaliate. The other side becomes more militaristic. And it just keeps going back and forth like a pendulum, swinging faster and faster. And sometime that pendulum's going to crack its casing. But, I mean, how do you de-escalate? You've got the full-on annexation of Gaza now. There's no longer a Palestinian government, at least one that's legally recognized. The United States refuses to give up support of Israel while also cajoling Netanyahu on a daily basis. Oh, please, calm down. Please withdraw more troops. Let's have peace talks. But Netanyahu says, fuck, I don't give a shit. What are you going to do about it? Even if the United States were to abandon Israel diplomatically right now, no sane country is going to intervene. Israel has nuclear weapons. They gained that from the United States, actually. A bunch of nuclear triggers went missing back in the 1970s, I believe it was, and yeah, they made their way to Israel. There may have even been a nuclear bomb test in coordination with the South Africans at one point that we're still not sure happened or did not happen. The Pentagon's reporting in the mid-'80s says, well, yeah, not only do they have thermonuclear weapons, they're on par with what we've got. So we're talking about half megaton to several megaton range weapons and dozens of them, possibly over 100. Syria's not going to want any of that. Iran probably wouldn't want to get involved. They would potentially survive a war with Israel, but at what cost? How many millions of people would get vaporized? It'd be a large number of people. The Christians would be talking about Megiddo very quickly if a situation like that were to occur. And the fact that we're talking about it being possible should alarm more people. People have already forgotten about it for the most part. I don't see nearly enough people talking continuously about the war in Gaza and how fucking dangerous it could be. Also, it's looking like things might heat up over Taiwan. You've got a war in Ukraine, again, involving a nuclear power, involving Russia. You've got the possibility that Guyana is going to pop off at any moment here. American warships are beefing up around the Persian Gulf region, which we've seen before, usually a prelude to war. You've got the Houthis in a de facto war with the United States at this point. The whole region is fucked up. World diplomacy right now is marching off a cliff like a pile of lemmings. That's about all. Peace out.